All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 1. The intention of this episode really is to set some foundation to allow you to have a bit of context before we jump into things with our guests throughout the different episodes. So before we jump into these juicy episodes, I just want to lay this foundation, set the stage for what's ahead. The focus on this conversation today is really around breaking that autopilot and building the foundational awareness that we need when we're selling in our day-to-day. So what is awareness and why is it important in sales? Awareness is really about giving attention and intention to what is happening right now without judgment, right? So this is awareness of what's happening, whether it's a customer call, whether it's a conversation with a coworker, pure awareness of that without the judgment, not being in the past, not being in the future, just being present. And why does that matter in sales? Right now, workplaces is the leading source of stress and burnout. And there has never been more need for tools to manage this. Specifically in sales, right now, over half, we actually have 60% of salespeople right now saying that their performance was poor because of mental health, right? So more than half our reps right now are struggling or impacted in some way because of their mental health when it comes to performance. So I'm gonna let that resonate for a moment. So this is about helping the sales professional, the individual, build those mental and emotional tools that they need to be more present, to show up as the best version of themselves. That's really the goal of this. But before we can show up to be the best version of ourselves, we have to be fully aware of the state that we're in. So we're looking to develop the driver and not just the car. Right now in sales, there's so much out there when it comes to different things that you can add to your tech stack that do increase the performance of the vehicle or of the engine. But how much work are we putting in to make sure that the driver getting in that car is showing up as the best version of themselves? Salespeople are the high-performing athlete of the workplace. And when we think about athletes and how mental health is approached, there's a massive focus on this. The understanding and appreciation for load management, as well as ensuring that an athlete will be able to sustain their career for a period of time, is essential. You don't want to sign somebody and then burn them out after a year or two to the point where they're no longer of value to the team. Yet this is exactly what we're doing in the workplace. So why mindfulness in sales, and why the Sell True podcast? The awareness piece allows the individual to respond rationally rather than emotionally. How many times in sales do we let the emotions take the best of us? Tough customer call, maybe internally there's a conversation about something you don't agree with. Those emotions can just hijack and take over. So with this awareness piece, this will allow us to navigate those emotions, keeping the mental and emotional well-being cup full. This allows us to navigate our prospects' emotions, allowing you to build trust, to understand their needs. And it also primes our nervous system for high performance and resilience for these stressful situations. It's not a matter of if stress is going to happen in sales, it's a matter of when. Are you prepared for that? Have you put the work in to make sure that when these stressful situations happen, you're able to regulate? Maybe even thinking right now, like, what part of the day do you feel the most reactive? Perhaps in your head right now, you can think back to a specific example, could even be recently, where you were reactive and allowed those emotions to take the best of you. So when we build awareness and apply mindfulness, if you will, this allows us to regulate those emotions, but then also improve communication and collaboration. Also allows us to build compassion, empathy, and create connection, again, with prospects or internally with your coworkers. And beyond that, allows us to stay calm, focused, creative, and productive when these times of stress do come. So this awareness piece allows us to be fully there so that when these situations arise, we're able to handle it. So mindfulness is awareness of the present moment. And the non-judgment piece, I just want to reiterate how important that is. And when our awareness is large and when we're fully aware of things around us, things that maybe seemed massive might seem small because we're able to zoom out. We're able to look at things from a different perspective. We get caught in these little tunnels of thought, and they can be very consuming. And if you allow them to take you down to a certain place, it can be really tough. So just remembering to zoom out and have that large awareness of the bigger picture. Because once we have that awareness, this gives us choice. And as Colin Powell would say, that choice allows us to lead to change. So with that choice, we can then change. So one of the best things to do, and this is a takeaway that you can take home and apply after this podcast, is the stop technique. This is very popular. You can Google this. Basically, what it is an opportunity to build awareness frequently throughout your day. So a lot of reps that I worked with, I would encourage them to set an alarm in the morning, an alarm at lunch, maybe an alarm after work. And this alarm would be a reminder to stop what you're doing, to take a deep breath, to observe the feelings of how you're feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being great, maybe 1 not so good, and then proceeding into the day. Now, this little break takes so little time, but it will allow you to have that continual awareness, which can break that cycle that you can sometimes get caught into. So I encourage you to practice that, to try that. I'll post it in the show notes as well, if you're not sure. You need a little more context there. So the fear when we don't have this awareness is we get caught into what many define as autopilot, right? How many times in a day as a individual do we look down at the clock and say, oh my gosh, it's 12 o'clock? We get caught in this autopilot, and that could be good. We're productive, we're getting a lot done. But the problem is when we're in autopilot in a stressful state without awareness for a continual period of time, because this stress builds up, it compounds. And when stress is compounding and building up, this will lead to that burnout in the long term. So we need to make sure that we have that awareness. Now, one of these big concepts that I feel dictates this in sales is how we look at real and imagined fear. So if you think about stress, it's really just a fancy word for fear. And awareness allows us to distinguish between the real fear and the imagined fear. By bringing your attention and your awareness to the present moment, it's actually switching our emotional brain to our thinking brain, allowing us to make better decisions around stress. That is key. Emotional brain to thinking brain. Not getting into the science too much here, but that emotional brain gets hijacked when emotions obviously take over. That thinking brain, its function is reduced. And with this fear, the problem is it can trigger us into this fight or flight state, right? So whether it's real or imagined, chased by the tiger or not hitting quota, the body is responding the same way. Crazy, but the body is responding the same way, meaning it is believing that you're in trouble and it is going into fight or flight state in order to save you. This is great when you're getting chased by a tiger, but unfortunately not missing quota, it cannot always be as beneficial. So just being aware that this imagined fear can trigger this fight or flight state, and chronic fight or flight state, again, will compound and will lead to burnout. So like fear, this stress is really only created when we think or imagine that we can be in harm's way. So in our day-to-day, if our sales culture and our environment does not feel safe, and we think and imagine that we're in harm's way, this is all it takes for the nervous system to be triggered. That's why it's so essential for leaders to create an environment that people feel like they can be safe. And when we talk about safety, we're not talking about, missing quota, but it's also just feeling safe in your day-to-day, your interactions, making yourself feel valued. The things you say are being heard. If you don't have this, your subconscious will feel this anxiety, which will trigger this fight or flight state. So how do we regulate this? This is, again, one of the tools that you can take away from this podcast. One of the best things we can do is we breathe. The breath, the power of the breath. This is a massive topic that we'll dive into more, but with the breath, we're able to trigger to the nervous system that everything's all good, right? So this allows us to move out of these states. So when we stop and do that, pause and check, and stop and breathe, it takes us out of this fight or flight state, or of this, free state that we're in, and can move us into a place of comfort, a place of safety. So the key to self-regulate and to feel like we're able to control this is by creating safety. And how do we create safety? Signaling to the body that everything's all good. How do we do that? Through breath. When I say breath, this can be one deep breath, in and out. This can be multiple deep breaths, hence why people meditate. But the point is just stopping and taking a breath and being there in that moment. That is your simple tool that will go a long way. This is just a little brief overview of what you can expect on different episodes, but I just want to lay some foundation here, because as we listen in the future with our other guests, we'll be diving into some more specifics, science-based, as well as ways that we as people not only self-sabotage, but sometimes put ourselves in a situation that is not the best for us to show up as the best version of ourselves. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.